You are now listening to the Where's the Line podcast with Joseph West and Britt Dillard. Enjoy the show.
Milton gonna take a shot wide open and just strutting in is Keaton. Joe Milton does it again.
Borgie again on a blitz. Levis pocket collapses. He's on the run. He just heaves it up. And it's intercepted by Vanderbilt. And let the celebration begin. The streak is over at 26. The Commodores win it.
Talk about Vanderbilt football. All I gotta say, and you're going to hell. Bye.
Another edition of Where's the Line? It is Wednesday, November 27th. This episode number 146, the penultimate episode of Where's the Line. We've got one left, boys, after this one. My name's Britt. I'm joined by Joseph West and the great, probably top 10 dad that I know, Jordan Craighead. How are y'all boys doing today?
Doing great. Me and Jordan are in person for the first time ever recording. Jordan now, what, four-time guest on WTL?
Something like that.
Four-time guest? We have a four-time guest here. Nobody else, I don't even think, has ever even been a guest on this podcast outside of Jordan.
It's going to be his last time, too.
Last time on WTL. Jordan, how you doing?
Good, man. Good to be here.
Good to be here. Britt, we're coming off a week of college football.
Yes.
Pretty good week. I don't care how you're doing. I forgot to ask. So I hope you're doing well. I didn't ask you. So screw you, I guess.
It's fine.
Coming off a good week of college football here. Another crazy week. The parity in college football is definitely at an all-time high. UT took on UTEP, the Miners, and Vanderbilt took on LSU. Britt, you got the UT final score on you?
Yeah, 56-0.
56-0 start. I know the start was a little slow. I did not watch any of the game, and I did not rewatch it. I checked the score at the start of the second, and it was 0-0, and that's really all I can tell you about the game. That's all I've got.
No, the first quarter was terrible. You had the ball 3 times. You punted 3 times. Nico was 3 for 6. After that, in the second and third quarter, he went 14 for 17. So he came back, looked good, had 4 touchdowns. Yeah, not an easy game to get up for, a noon game. You were watching everybody else around the country play. You needed a lot of stuff to happen. A lot of that stuff did happen. But, yeah, I think it is good for Tennessee to play this noon game to get ready for this upcoming noon game. It's Vanderbilt.
Big game this weekend, best week in sports rivalry weekend. Jordan, any takes on the UT game from this past weekend?
Not really. I didn't even get a chance to watch it. I had jet all day Saturday, so
dang, life
all I
being
was doing
a
was
dad.
catching the box score.
Yep, good dad alert. So not a lot of input from this side of WTL, but nonetheless, big win for Tennessee, 56-0. Moving on, Vanderbilt LSU. Vanderbilt went down to Death Valley this weekend, lost by a score of 24-17. Outside of the first drive, very first play of the game, Vanderbilt's been super conservative first play of the game all year. It's pretty much been a run up the middle or a run to the tackle every time. Vanderbilt finally decided to do something crazy. First play of the game, double move, man coverage. Quincy Skinner absolutely torches the DB, 70 yards to the crib, 65 yards to the crib. Or no, 75 yards. I can't count. 75 yards to the crib. Outside of that play, there's not a lot of offense to talk about when you look at Diego was 13 of 24 for 186 yards passing and 70 of that came on one play. We had 6 rushing attempts for 43 yards. That's Diego. Said he had 9 for 24. When you look at the box score, I think you'll see a story that when Vanderbilt had 122 rushing yards, and the box score rushing looks well, but Vanderbilt did struggle to run the football. They honestly struggled to get any offense going there for about 2 quarters. They didn't really have a lot going. The second and third quarter, I mean, you just didn't really see any put together drives outside of the drive that they kicked a field goal on. This game is really a thing of exactly how Vanderbilt wants to play football, and that's you have to do every little thing right in order to win at Vandy right now. The talent gap is certainly still there. Not picking up. We went for it on 4th down. Magical play by Pavia, escapes some pressure, tries to throw it to Quincy, little behind him, he drops it. It's things like that you picked up against Bama. It's things like that you picked up against Kentucky, even Auburn. You got to have those plays, and you didn't. And so when you don't have those plays, I think you're going to struggle to score, and you did. Another week where Vanderbilt's offense struggled. This team, I said during the bye week, this team has to be healthy. This team did not get healthy. I wish they did. I wanted them to. I was hoping they did. They didn't. It just was not in the cards. It was longer than a week's worth of rest for this team to get healthy. Diego's still super banged up. Stour still looks banged up. Guys just simply aren't moving the way that they were moving against Virginia Tech, against Bama, against Kentucky even. It seems like ever since that Kentucky game, this team has just been too banged up to focus almost. And so that's kind of my take on the team right now. Just an early thought is we're still super banged up, and that's not going to clear up in 5 days either, which is the biggest worry.
It sounds like he's trying to set up an excuse.
No, I wish.
That's what it sounds like.
I wish I was trying to set up an excuse. I talked to 2 different UT fans today. I'm no stranger to talking crap. Usually I stray away from it. This year I'm not. I'm just talking crap while I can. And I talked to 2 different UT fans. And the first response was, well, we're not good enough to win it all, so I don't even care if y'all beat us. I was like, okay, excuse number 1. Thank you for your response. The next response was, Vanderbilt could beat us, and I think y'all will win. I know that neither one of those people actually think either one of those things. They're both just cowards trying to set up excuses for the future.
Whoever said that first statement, who said that first statement? Say it.
I will not say his name. You know me. I'm a big confidentiality guy.
Not a very big Tennessee fan. I'll say that. If they say I don't care if we lose. But I do kind of somewhat agree with one thing he said, that this is a playoff game for Tennessee. And if you can't beat Vanderbilt, not dogging Vanderbilt, but if you can't win Saturday, you don't belong anyways in the playoff, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not dogging Vanderbilt. I'm just saying at this scenario, if you can't get a win against a 6-win Vanderbilt team.
No, we're certainly going to get our chance to dog each other. But just to finish up on Vanderbilt LSU, I think that I still think a lot of thoughts about this team are what I thought in the beginning of the season. I think they're a really good football team. I think that they have struggled at times just due to being out-athleted at certain positions. And at this point in the season, your depth really starts to show up, and you can see that Vanderbilt does not have the depth that other teams have. So that certainly hurts, but it just shows you've made a good stride in the right direction. You've got to make another one. But Jordan, any thoughts? Oh no, you said no thoughts on the Vandy LSU game. I'm sorry, I went to you for no reason. But yeah, I mean, for me, you saw a lot of things that I think you were scared of. Vanderbilt certainly has a lot of problems that can rear their ugly head, and I'll get into several of those for the Tennessee game. But ultimately, you couldn't get the problems in this game. Your key takeaways from this game for me are, 1, Nussmeier had all day in the pocket to throw. They were rushing 4 and 5 and could not get to Nussmeier. That's a problem you haven't really seen a lot throughout the season. But in this game, you simply just could not get pressure unless you absolutely blitzed. And so that's not a recipe for success when your secondary is not good. Not that our secondary is necessarily bad, but they're just not great. Not a recipe for success. Number 2 is the offensive line needs work bad. Gonna have to go get 2 dudes in the portal. Gonna have to attack it. Offensive line needs improved. Defensive line needs an elite pass rusher. And 3, not enough weapons to catch the football. That should be your top 3 priorities in the portal in that order. Elite pass rusher, 2 offensive linemen, weapon. Simple. That's who you should go get. Those are the problems that Vanderbilt are going to face. And, that's, like I said, that's not going to get fixed this week in UT prep, and it won't get fixed before the bowl either. It's going to be strength in numbers type of thing where you're just going to have to go get guys to come play.
Good news is Vanderbilt should be a pretty attractive transfer spot for a quarterback, I would think.
I agree.
Just with the publicity that Pavia's got and how well he's done.
I've said that as well. I think that it's going to be a lot easier. Vanderbilt had to severely overpay this past portal season to get the guys that they got. We overpaid just for a couple guys that I know the numbers of. We overpaid at least $200,000 compared to the next closest offer just so they would come to Vandy. It took the money to get them here. I think this year you're going to have to overpay less. I still think you have to overpay a little bit, but maybe just $50,000-$60,000 for them to come say, hey, look, we went 6-6. We honestly didn't have the talent to go 6-6. We just did it. Imagine if you come here, what we can do. And you get favorable home games next year. Missouri comes to you. Auburn comes to you. I think both of those programs are in not a great spot right now. They're losing. I mean, Missouri's losing their best player in Luther Burden after this year, and Auburn has Hugh Freeze as the head coach. I'm not scared of them. So you get a favorable home stretch in SEC games next year. You also have super tough road games, but you could win 4 SEC games next year, the ones at home, and I would be pretty happy with the success of assuming that you take care of things out of conference, take care of business. So we'll see, but I agree with you, Brett. I think we're gonna be a much more attractive spot, especially if Pavia gets another year, this gets multiplied by 10. I think Pavia will be the number 1 guy in the transfer portal saying, hey, I will die on this football field with you. Come play with me. And I think that you can't quantify his demeanor on the recruiting trail. So hopefully he does, but that's a whole different conversation. So
this podcast is set to go out on Thanksgiving. What are you guys thankful for?
Jordan? Oh, me?
All right, not
well,
much.
first of all, we're thankful for nothing. No, I'm kidding. I'm thankful for so much. I hope I'm going to be thankful for being wrong a lot about what I'm about to break down in this UT game. I hope I'm wrong about literally everything that I say except for the last 10 seconds when I talk about how I'm going to glaze Vandy. But outside of that, I hope I'm thankful about being wrong about everything that I talked about. I'm thankful for my great friends, both of you included. 2 dudes that have been great to me. Shout out to my parents. I'm not hungry. I got clothes. Amen. Just we can tell. Yep. Shut up, Britt. That's right. Jordan, what are you thankful for, brother?
Definitely my family. This is my first Thanksgiving with more than just 2 of us. So definitely
That's awesome.
Definitely a different feel to the holidays. That probably I would say y'all could say the same thing. Holidays haven't really felt the same the older you get, and now we've added a little one to the family. It's starting to feel like that again, which is a lot of fun, and I'm very thankful for that. The depth of my friends. I mean, you don't get through a lot of things without your friends.
Facts. That is facts. Also, shout out. I'm also
beautiful.
thankful for Jordan's son, Jet, my only nephew, gangster, and he does like Vandy. He told me.
Not true. He will watch Vandy basketball though.
Yeah, he will be watching some Doors basketball. But Brett, what do you think?
We have a lot to be thankful for. I'm thankful for my family, my new wife, my dog, parents, sisters. I've got a lot of people around me that are truly awesome. My friends, you guys, got a lot of people I can depend on that really can't put a price on that. I'm thankful for Jesus, for dying for us. Thankful for a lot of stuff.
Kanye said it best, everything that I have, praise the Lord.
That's right. Yeah. It doesn't take long to look around and see how blessed we are, for sure.
That's very true. Now, enough about being nice and polite and thankful. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of this podcast, which is rivalry week. This rivalry is so slept on. I don't care what anybody says in the country. Even if I wasn't a fan, if I just lived here, and I just heard Vanderbilt fans talk, and then I heard some Tennessee fans talk. Certain ones, others downplay it, and that's fine. But certain fans, this rivalry is awesome. A lot of Tennessee fans, I think, especially because of the rise in baseball, have begun to really hate Vandy, and I think that makes the rivalry so much better. The fact that I get on Twitter and I see people saying, I hate you, you're so bad at this, this, and this, like, that makes the rivalry so much better that there's hatred there. So the rivalry has certainly leveled up over the past couple of years, even though Tennessee has won 3 straight, according to the NCAA. But yeah, I mean, they vacated the 2 wins. That's why I'm saying 3 according to the NCAA. But yeah, vacated wins don't count. 2020 also doesn't count. So really just 3 wins over the last 5 for UT. But it's the rivalry's leveled up. That's where I'll start in this. I think the rivalry has really leveled up over the past few years.
Well, I will take it a step smaller and say this year, it's the biggest Tennessee Vandy game of our lifetimes.
It's the biggest Tennessee Vandy game ever history.
And I would also say if Vanderbilt was to win, it may be the biggest win. And correct, Joseph, what do you think about it? Do you think this would be Vanderbilt's biggest win? Just history? as far as this means more than any other one?
No, I don't think so. I listen, even though I wasn't there, I don't think anything can pass the Bama win. I think when you look at Vanderbilt fans, that was a wet dream. That's all that ever was to a Vanderbilt fan. I think a lot of Vanderbilt fans thought they would never see it. People on the outside of Vanderbilt have always said Vanderbilt will never be able to do something like that. It was a magical moment, and it just showed you, hey, this can happen here. It almost reassured everything that I've been saying over the past 3-4 years, basically since Clark got there, saying, hey, this guy I think could right the ship, and I think he could do something magical. Not giving him all the credit for us winning, but nothing passes the Bama win, in my opinion. I think that will forever be the greatest win in Vanderbilt history, and I'm not usually a guy to speak in absolutes, but when you beat the number 1 team for the first time ever, you're 0-60 versus top 10 teams. A lot of fans, especially your older ones, thought it would never happen. Nothing is going to surpass that for me. But I do think, however, this would be the greatest win over Tennessee ever, for sure. And I think that it would be Vanderbilt's second greatest win of all time, right behind Bama.
I mean, okay. I was just thinking like 3-loss Alabama, not make the playoff, first-year coach, Jalen Milroe sucks.
Well, hindsight's 2020, but like in the moment though, it can't be surpassed. Like it just the feeling that I felt when I saw Diego Pavia take a knee and I started just crying like a baby, the feeling, I don't know if that can ever be replicated. That might be the mountaintop. And I've heard Vanderbilt fans, like, for example, one of my boys, Trevor, shout out Trev, Hack Squat Jim Duggan, your worst nightmare on Twitter for Vols fans this week. But he said this week on the podcast, he didn't hold back. He said, listen, Vols fans can make fun of me if they want to. This is my Super Bowl. He said, this is my Super Bowl. If we beat UT, my year is made. This is my Super Bowl this year. There's no doubt about it. This is my Super Bowl. He was like, if you would have told me this year we went 1-11 but knocked UT out of the playoff, I would have counted as a successful season. I disagree with that sentiment. I do not agree whatsoever. Yes, I have said it before. I just wanted to reiterate. I do not agree with that sentiment. Still, he's a legendary Vandy fan and he hates UT, and I get it. But bowling is the goal. It should be the bottom. It should be the foundation of it all. Reaching 6 wins should always be the foundation. That's the best way to put it.
Well, the stakes are massive on both sides.
Agreed.
They're absolute. I think even the difference between a recruiting pitch and saying you went 6-6 or 7-6 and saying you went 7-5 or 8-5, I think that's a big difference.
I agree. I think it definitely
and if
sounds
it's over Tennessee, it just makes it that much bigger. And then obviously Tennessee's playing to compete for a national championship. So
yeah, I mean you're pretty much you're able to make out the point. Hey, we beat 2 top 10 teams this year. Both are a lot more talented than us, and we figured out a way to do it twice. And I think that pitch is so much better than just saying, hey, we had lightning in a bottle for one game. It's not, I don't think anyone thinks it was luck when we beat Bama anyways. I think it was just thoroughly dominant from Vanderbilt. But if that question is in anyone's mind, this week eliminates it if you win.
I agree.
I got to get some water.
Okay, I'm going to dive into a little bit, not arguing. I'm just simply reading metrics, I guess. And these are from NCAA.com. Tennessee, number 6 total defense, number 11 total offense. You're scoring 37.8 points per game. This is all 11 games, so it's propped up by some Kent States and UTEPs and NC State and stuff like that. Just wanted to get that out there. Defense points per game, 13.1. Looking at Vanderbilt, the 61st ranked total defense, the 116th ranked offense, which surprised me. 27 points per game scored, 21.9 points per game allowed. As I dove into this game,
what metric are we using? Points scored per game to rank offenses?
So total defense is strictly points allowed.
Okay, got it.
It's either points allowed or points per play. I think it's points per play, actually.
Okay.
And the total offense is the same way.
Got it.
And that's NCAA.com. As I dove into this, I started looking at the schedule and the wins and the stats. And one thing that stuck out to me, in 6 out of 11 games, Diego Pavia, the leading rusher, was Vanderbilt's leading rusher in the game. And there was one game over 100 yards. 100 yards for a quarterback, obviously, rushing is very good. Joseph, do you think Vanderbilt just doesn't have a dominant running back? I'm genuinely asking.
What makes Vanderbilt's offense special? And I have a point about this, comparing UT scheme to Vanderbilt scheme in a different light, though. But what makes Vanderbilt's scheme special is the quarterback run game. Not necessarily that the running backs aren't good, but just the quarterback run is most of the time in 80% of offenses, you don't have to account for the quarterback. You do not have, you're running spread, you're not accounting for the quarterback. The quarterback's going to stay stationary. You're running West Coast, you're not accounting for the quarterback. What makes Vanderbilt's offense special is you have to account for all 11. And so that makes Diego Pavia or any quarterback in the system the X factor. And so when Diego Pavia, if you look, Britt was talking about his rushing yards. If you look at the games where Diego Pavia had 15 plus carries, Vanderbilt wins the football game. When Diego Pavia runs, we win games. The last 3 games that we've lost, he's had 6 carries, 8 carries, 9 carries. So it's not necessarily that you don't have the running back to be dominant. It's also about the O-line. The O-line can't get pushed consistently to create a hole for the running back, where it doesn't really matter what the O-line does in a sense if it's an option, because Diego's just reading it and it's all up to him. And so yes and no. I do think what Vanderbilt lacks running back wise is Vanderbilt has to have, and I believe I said this on the last podcast, Vanderbilt needs another Keyshawn Vaughn. They need somebody who can make a 15-yard run a 50 or a 30-yard run a 65-yard touchdown. You need breakaway speed at the running back position, and that is something that we don't have this year.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that point, I think the biggest position matchup in this game is Diego Pavia against Tennessee's linebackers. Tennessee's linebackers, they've been okay this year. The last couple games they've been pretty bad. Losing Keenan Pili hurt, but there's just not enough depth or experience. You're starting 2 sophomores at linebacker, and I think that will be the biggest matchup. Is can you contain Diego Pavia? Can your linebackers make the correct read and shut down the run? Since the Alabama game, which Vanderbilt score an even 40 in that Alabama game?
We did 40-35 final.
Since then, and I know it's kind of due to injury, that doesn't need to be ignored. Vanderbilt has not scored more than 24 points since the Alabama game. They beat Kentucky by 7, Ball State by 10, Auburn by 10, and lost to LSU, Texas, and South Carolina. That's 2 respectable losses and 1 borderline respectable with LSU. So I'm just kind of reading through stuff, just trends, and there's plenty of trends you can run on Tennessee too.
Yeah,
but I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how healthy is Diego Pavia, and what version of Tennessee are you going to get? What version of Tennessee's offense will you get Saturday?
Yeah. And I'm going to comment on that, and then Jordan, I'm going to pass it to you. So just be getting warmed up over there in the bullpen. But it's for me, it's this. It's a combination of the two things. Britt talked about why we hadn't scored as much. Simple. One is there's tape on the offense. Notice Josh Heupel's offense year 1 to year 2. Your offense is going to slow down as tape evolves. It just simply is. I don't care who your coach is. I don't care what your offense you're running. Your offense is going to slow down late into year 1 or year 2 when you get tape on it, consistent tape, and you know tendencies. That's number one. Is these teams that have really stopped Vanderbilt, they've noticed the tendencies, they've shut us down. It's a combination of that and health. So it is a combination of the two. Both things matter and both are true. I've seen Vanderbilt fans trying to say, well, Tim Beck just needs to evolve. Well, some of it is that Diego just isn't the same guy that he was in week 6 or week 8. So it's a combination of the two. And I think, and I'll get into that some in my full UT breakdown. I'm just kind of giving an overview and comment on things that you said. But, I think it's a combination of two things. The offense has film and Diego Pavia's injury and others. Jordan?
It's also kind of impossible to adapt in the middle of the season. Sorry,
That
Jordan,
is
go
true,
ahead.
unless you have a bye.
Very good. I think one thing I want to add on top of this, kind of like we first started with, was the rivalry. I was someone that would call this not a rivalry up until this season. I've caught myself, Joseph, we're family. He's a Vandy fan. Like, I root for Vanderbilt to be successful. But after each win, I started being like, man, I'm ready for them to lose because I'm tired of hearing about it from Vandy fans. Not just Joseph, but Vandy fans in general. And that brought it back to me full circle of like, okay, this is 100% a rivalry. Always has been, always will be. Just because you drive 3 hours, you're in Knoxville. You drive 3 hours, you're in Nashville. It's going to be a rivalry. And then kind of some things over the game. Joseph's already mentioned it. Britt's already mentioned it. The health of Vandy. What's it look like? Because that's the key. Depth is an issue. Depth's an issue for UT, but not to the level that it is at Vandy. It's just in certain areas for UT. It's not your stars. So if they're healthy and can go at a full speed, I would say this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a close game regardless of their health, honestly, just because of how UT likes to play on the road. They like to not show up, or if they do, they show up for a half and forget to show up the other half. So it's going to be a good Saturday.
I agree. It's going to be a great Saturday. I'm going to run through some points here, just some overviews, some keys that I had to the game, or not necessarily keys yet. I'll get into my keys in a minute, but just some things that I talked about. One, Britt's already touched on this, so we'll go there first. My first point of this whole entire thing was going to be take advantage of UT's linebackers. When you look at UT's defense as a whole, you see guys that have been great. You see James Pierce, arguably, if not the best pass rusher, one of the best pass rushers in the country. You see Gerard McCoy, who's been great, lockdown corner for Tennessee. I think other guys in Tennessee's secondary are suspect, but I think the pass rush and McCoy makes up for it, so it's not noticeable. So I think that those two levels, the front four and the secondary, I think at UT are really solid. I'll start there. Really solid. The linebackers, though, one, the depth is certainly scary. A guy goes down and you're having to play a guy that hasn't got a lot of minutes consistently. I think is scary for Tennessee, not just for Vandy, but in the playoff. I think the linebacking core is weak. I think that the very first thing I would recommend for Vanderbilt to succeed is open up the middle of the field, attack the linebackers with your tight ends. I think that is key to success, number one, outside of establishing the run. I think the very next place you have to look to is attack Tennessee's linebackers. If you do that, I think you can be super successful because, frankly, I don't think they're very good. And so I think you can attack them, and I think you can succeed. That's the path. We'll start there. That's what I would say is one of my keys is take advantage of Tennessee's linebackers. I think they're the weak link of the defense.
Tennessee's linebacker, the depth is so scarce that after your starters, there was a guy in there. He was in the first quarter of, I think the Mississippi State game, and I see a guy make a tackle, and I said, "Who is that?" I said, "I don't even know who that is." And I mean, I consider myself a pretty big fan. I know the roster.
Bandwagon.
I was like, "Who is that guy?" And that is scary, but Yeah, I will say I think Tennessee's corners are really good. I think Ricky Gibson is really good on the other side of McCoy. Your safeties are not great. Andre Turntime's not good. Will Brooks is you can't say much about Will Brooks. He's been making plays all year. Could there be a better safety out there? Should there be? Yes. Will Brooks has been good though. But yeah, I'll agree with you there.
Yeah, and also interesting stat here. So Vanderbilt is one of the most run-heavy teams in the country. We are top 10 in run-to-pass percentage. And I had the numbers, and apparently I've just totally lost them and can't find it. But I will say that something I found interesting is that Josh Heupel, and me and Britt have talked about it on the pod before, a lot of people think Josh Heupel, they think air raid, they think throw it. Tennessee is the only team in the SEC that runs it more than Vandy. That's it. They have a lower run-to-pass percentage than Vandy. They run it more than Vandy. That's crazy. Even me being such an avid fan that I am, I didn't know that. I didn't know that Tennessee had a higher run-to-pass percentage than Vandy does. So I think that's an interesting tidbit of the game is that, Vanderbilt does want you to run the football, but even with that being said, I think when I first seen the stat, I was like, oh, this is good for Vandy. This is good for Vandy. But regardless, I do think this is a matchup nightmare for Vandy. Just what UT does, how they operate, where their strengths are at, is the strengths of South Carolina, LSU even. Like, they share the same strengths, and that's just teams you've watched Vanderbilt struggle against. So I do think it has the potential to be absolutely matchup nightmare.
Yeah. There are several interesting stats that I ran into digging into Vanderbilt specifically. And you talk about the job that Clark Lee's done, and everybody gives and should give him a lot of credit for what they've done this year. But Vanderbilt is the least penalized team in the conference in the SEC.
Yeah.
They also, I think they have the least turnovers of anybody in this. I think they have 6 turnovers this year.
In one of the advanced metric things that I follow, you can type in matchups and it will come back and tell you like what ways the underdog can win. And I did that this weekend or today actually about UT and Vandy, and they were like the two things that can help Vanderbilt the most to win is two very cliche things, but penalties. Tennessee is has a lot of more penalty yards than Vandy, and the turnover battle. Vanderbilt wins both of those things. I think if Tennessee goes up there and gets 8 or 9 penalties and turns the ball over twice, all of a sudden I think Vanderbilt's going to win the game. I mean, that's just the way that I would look at it.
Yeah. On the other hand, Tennessee is the most penalized team in the country. I think we were like 120th. There was like maybe a dozen teams behind us that have been penalized more. So that is interesting. Vandy's obviously playing at home. There are several things that favor Vanderbilt. I think the crowd. Maybe first of all, ticket prices are insane.
Yeah,
I'm unable to go anyways, but good Lord, $400 to get into the game is
Vanderbilt raised ticket prices to third party markets, basically saying, hey, if you're gonna get into the game, that's fine, but you're going to pay a pretty penny. You're basically going to fund our NIL. If you want to take over our stadium, that's fine, but you're just going to have to fund our NIL for it. And that was simply their approach. And the tickets, people are like, well, I'll wait till game time. The tickets aren't coming down. They screwed all the third-party sites over. They're not losing money on them. They're not coming down. You better, if you want a ticket, you're going to have to pay the $300. It's really simple. Jordan, anything to add there? I know we talked a lot there. That was a lot of information. A lot to take in. No, I agree.
But for Tennessee, I've heard a lot this year. Well, Tennessee will end up going 9-2, and then they'll get beat by Vanderbilt. I've heard it all year. Everybody's heard it all year. That's so annoying. It would be the most Tennessee thing ever to lose to Vanderbilt and not go to the playoff. Well, okay, let's state the obvious, but I feel pretty confident about the game. I think there's a lot of ways that Tennessee has an advantage in this game. With the stakes, I think the team will be locked in. You had everything go almost too perfect last week in other games around the country to give Tennessee pretty much a locked-in spot with a win Saturday. So I would say my confidence level is 80%, 75%, and I will just say all 25% that I'm not confident is because of Diego Pavia. And I think,
Respect.
and I was thinking about that today, and I was like, Diego Pavia probably gives Vanderbilt a 25% increase to win this game.
Yeah, Diego Pavia on your team gives you always the puncher's chance. It's that simple. You've got a puncher's chance if Diego Pavia is your quarterback. I'm going to state some keys and then hopefully spark up several arguments where we can all get into it and have a lot of fun. So first key is stop UT's offense early. This is where the first argument will begin. I will state what I'm going to say, and then we'll start with Jordan and go to you, Britt, if that's okay with you. Here's point number one. UT's offense. If you're looking at UT's offense like a machine, the engine of the offense is Dylan Sampson. He's the engine. He's what makes it all go. He's the focal point of the offense. He's the best player on the offensive side of the ball. The weak link is Nico. I've kind of beat around the bush all year. I'm just going to come out and say it now. Nico's the weak point. He's the weak link of the whole offense. Attack Nico. When he's flustered, he hasn't played well. When he has time, he makes his throws. Knock him on his A early, and I think you have a good chance to win the game. I think I'll know in the first 5 minutes whether Vanderbilt's going to stay in it or not. Get pressure on Nico. He's the weak link. He hasn't performed well under pressure. He's a freshman. Freshmen are known to do that. It's not necessarily throwing a lot of shots at Nico. I just think a lot of Vols fans would hear that and draw back. He's the weak link of the offense, arguably the weak link of the team. I think if you would just have somebody that makes some half-decent throws against Arkansas, Georgia, I won't say the same, but at least Arkansas, you've only lost one game all year. If you just have somebody that can make throws that I would say 60% of quarterbacks in Power 4 make. Just give me that. UT's 11-1 right now. Nico's the weak point. Attack him.
I disagree.
I knew that was coming.
Specifically with Nico being the weak link. The weak link's the bums on the outside, in my opinion. They struggle to get open. When they do get open, they don't catch it. And with what you see on TV, you don't know if they ran the correct route, if they ran the route properly.
That's true.
So there's a lot of things there between Nico, which he's missed throws. I'm not saying he hasn't done that. He has 100% missed throws that he has to make. But there's been more times than not that the wide receivers drop passes that they have to catch. That's going to make you think twice about pulling that trigger to throw to certain guys. And it's all of them, except probably Brewer. Brewer's probably the only one that you could say that gets out everything he can with his talent. But yeah, I disagree with that. Nico's not the weak link.
I will comment. My next point is that Tennessee's wide receivers are earthly. And so not blaming all the total blame is not going to Nico. What I mean by earthly is Tennessee does not have a Cedric Tillman or a Jalen Hyatt on this team, is basically what I mean by that. Just to compare it to names that you know and that you've heard, there's no Jalen Hyatt. There is no Cedric Tillman on this team. The wide receivers are very mid in the SEC. Like there's a lot of receivers that I think you could point to and say, that would be the best receiver on Tennessee's team by a long shot. And honestly, Vanderbilt doesn't have any of those guys. So not speaking on Vandy at all.
You haven't had a guy step up. I think I spoke earlier in the year that Tennessee had the most wide receiver depth they've had in a while, and I still believe that. It's just the average of the overalls of those players is drastically lower than it has been the past few years. I will kind of play both sides. I do agree that Nico is the weak link of the offense. Yes, there are drops. Yes, Squirrel White plays football like he's wearing rollerblades. But there have been so many passes, so many touchdown passes that have been missed. And he just has to be better. That first quarter against UTEP was absolutely dreadful. Nico was so terrible. But Joseph, I will vehemently disagree with you when you said put Nico on his butt and you will win. If Nico gets hit, he's going off. And we've seen that against Alabama and against Mississippi State. Well, not against Mississippi State, he came out. But when Nico gets hit, when he sees adversity, that's when he plays well. It's all these throws that he misses are like at the beginning of the game when there's not as much pressure on him. But I think when he does have a little bit of pressure, whenever he is kind of has to be quicker making decisions. I think that's been the best version of him we've seen this year.
Yeah, see, I think I kind of disagree just with your train of thought there. I think the times when you have the most pressure on you as a quarterback, the start of the game, the end of the game. Your nerves are at you at the start of the game, and then if it's close at the end of the game, you obviously know that the team's on your back. So I would argue that's your two most stressful points as a quarterback.
And I don't completely disagree with that. I think the Arkansas game you can point to high pressure, and we just didn't come through. I didn't blame that game on Nico, but he didn't do anything to kind of win that game for you at the end. I had another point.
Sorry.
What was I going to say? But yeah, he has been the limiting factor in some of these wins. But yeah, the Alabama game, I think, is a good example. He gets hit pretty hard. As high a pressure moment as you've had all season, and that's probably the best second half of football he's played all year. So I'm not too worried about that, but I think the worry is which version is going to come out on the field in the first quarter, because I think if you come out slow like you did last week, you can't do that in conference. You just can't do it.
To add on to my point about getting Nico to the ground, Vanderbilt has to find pressure with their front 4 or 5 at worst. I mean, if Vanderbilt has to send any more pressure than that, you get absolutely beat like a drum on the outside. When I say matchup nightmare, I mean, you look at it like Vanderbilt's worst enemy. Those little quick passes to the outside where it's one-on-one, you got to make a tackle. That's not Vanderbilt's friend. That's not where Vanderbilt wants you to be. That's not what we want you to do. So that's a matchup nightmare. And when I say Dylan Sampson, the engine, obviously it starts with stopping the run with Sampson, get him behind the chains early, first and second down. I think that's where you're going to win this game. If you can get in obvious pass situations where it's 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, and you can just sit off and tee on Nico, I like your odds. If you can't tee off on Nico, I hate the odds. This has disaster blowout written absolutely all over it. It's just a matchup nightmare. I mean, things Vanderbilt struggle with. Pass rush. Tennessee has a good one of those. Run game. Tennessee is top 5 in run defense in the country. That's not good. That's what Vanderbilt wants to do. They're giving up 2.7, I believe, yards per carry. Tennessee is. That's amazing. And so when you're taking away Vanderbilt's strengths and then defensively flipping around for what Tennessee wants to do on offense is they want to run it, which that's okay with us. But then you want to make quick passes and make just your athletes just, hey, go out athlete. Hey, Mike Matthews, go out athlete Jalen Lackey on the outside. Like that's not what we want you to do. So it really does. It has nightmare written absolutely all over it. But my next key to the game here is, and both of y'all will agree with this one. This one's not going to be very controversial, I don't think, but Vanderbilt has to win the time of possession. We haven't won the time of possession the last 3 weeks, and you lose. When you win time of possession, you win. It's simple for us. Win time of possession, you have a good chance to win the football game. Lose time of possession, you can't win. At least you can't this year because you haven't showed me that you could. So win time of possession, I think everyone would agree with that. Take advantage of any mistakes that UT makes. UT forces a turnover or has a turnover, got to score. Got to score 7. UT scores, it's 4 downs every time. I don't care where they turn the ball over at, we're going for it. I would go for it every time. Bowl games locked up, throw the kitchen sink at these guys. I think Tennessee, this is something we probably wouldn't have talked about unless I bring it up. One thing Tennessee will need to stop is Nate Johnson. Nate Johnson will see time in this game. He will get snaps in this game to take hits away from Diego, and he's an X factor. If he can take one of those zone plays to the crib for 70 yards, talk about a jump start. So that's an X factor player that watch out when he comes in for his 5 or 6 plays that he'll come in for. I think that's a guy that you could say, okay, this could be the difference. So that's just another point about the quarterback room and how Diego's banged up. And also, Tennessee moves fast, and Vanderbilt's defense hates that.
Yeah, that's why I almost think time possession can be thrown out of the window in this game, because just how fast Tennessee's offense is and how good Tennessee's defense is. I don't think a team can just, well, I say that Georgia just did it, but I think it would be difficult for a team to grind out these long 80-plus play drives. But like I said, we literally just watched Georgia do it perfectly. So,
yeah, if Vanderbilt possesses the ball more than 36 minutes, they're going to win the football game. If you look at this stat sheet and you see Vanderbilt possess the ball for more than 36 minutes and they didn't win, I will come on here and tell you I'm an idiot next episode. Last episode, I will admit that I'm an idiot. But if Vanderbilt possesses the ball more than 36 minutes, Jordan's getting his notepad to write this down as we speak. If Vanderbilt possesses the ball more than 36 minutes, 1 second, 36, anything over 36 exactly, they will win the football game. They're going to win the football game. The good news is about UT going fast for Vandy on the opposite side of things is that Tennessee comes out and runs it on first down. 40 seconds comes off the clock. Let's say they run it all the way down, 40 seconds come off. Second down, third down, or 2 incompletions, that's a minute drive. That's what Vanderbilt wants you to do. Then we want to get it back, pick up 2 or 3 first downs, burn 5-6 minutes off the clock, and then we're going to punt it back. And we're going to say, do it again. Do it again. And then we're just going to score when we can. Biggest thing about this, another thing that we haven't talked about, here's where Vanderbilt wins. Vanderbilt is a top 15 team in the country at red zone efficiency. We are ranked 15th, I believe. We score and we get in the red zone at 90%. Tennessee scores 77% of the time in the red zone. They are like 119th in the country. I don't remember the exact numbers. I looked this up earlier. I'm sorry I didn't write it down. But that is a huge gap from like top 20 in the country to top 120 in the country. That's where Vanderbilt wins. You hold Tennessee to field goals in the red zone. You score touchdowns. That's the road to success. And honestly, I just hate UT. So I don't really care how they do it. Just beat them.
Yeah, I've said over the however long we've done this podcast that I don't hate Vanderbilt. I do. I hate Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was lying. I may have been subconsciously lying to myself, but it occurred to me today that, yeah, I dislike. It's like if you have a goiter on your back or something. It's just annoying.
I will go back to Jordan's comment earlier. I remember when UT sucked, which has been most of the time like I was in middle school all the way up until I'll say 2022. And so in that 10-year span from we'll just say 12 to 2022, in like 2021, Britt, Cody, all y'all, Jordan, everybody I knew, y'all were having a bad time. And in the Bama game, after the Bama game, I literally texted Donald, yourself, Cody, Jordan, everybody that I knew pretty much that I actually really like, and was like, hey, hope y'all enjoy it, have a ball. Really hope y'all enjoyed it. You deserve it, have a ball. But the more you win, the more real the situation gets about the playoff. I've never wanted UT to lose more. So certainly when your rivalry starts or your rival starts winning more, I think it does cause you to hate them because you start hearing more about them. The local radio, Nashville radio, should be ashamed of themselves. Nashville radio in particular should be absolutely ashamed of themselves for how much they just touch UT's pecker consistently and do not talk about Vanderbilt, especially 104.5. Should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. Every one of them.
It's in the Vol network, man.
They should be ashamed of themselves.
They're trying to pay bills, Justin.
Don't care. They should be ashamed of themselves. It's pitiful. You can't even talk about Vandy
The
for 5
Vols
minutes.
pay the bills.
It's pitiful.
The Vols are the cash cow of the SEC. I'm sorry. Well, until Texas came.
Don't care. Don't care. Also, a UT fan commented on my post today and said, I hate UT, I hate UT, I hate UT. And somebody commented and said, man, I hate Texas too. Thank you. And I was like, when did UT fans stop calling themselves the real UT? I just didn't know that was a thing.
Whoever that is an idiot.
I know. He literally had a bunch of followers too. And a bunch of his followers were like, hey, have you been kidnapped? Like he had like 3,000 followers on Twitter. So I don't know who this guy was, but his name was like Smokey something. But yeah, honestly, screw Smokey. I hate dogs as well. So, screw Smokey as well. Just while we're here.
It's better than a gay little sailor man.
A Commodore, you mean? A Commodore who fought for your freedom, may I remind you. You hate the troops or something?
I don't know.
Do you hate the troops? Do you hate the troops? Just tell me right now that you hate the troops.
I don't know.
It's okay.
I don't know.
It's okay. Just tell me you hate the troops, Britt.
I don't hate the troops. Your athletic director looks like Big Mike Obama. If Tennessee didn't have a single passing touchdown this year, they would still have the same number of touchdowns as Vanderbilt.
If they didn't have a single passing one, is that an actual stat?
Yes.
I'll
32.
have to look into that. Hold on that stat. I think Britt's making that up. Hold on that chat.
But my keys, I'm not going to break them down. I'm not trying to spark an argument. It says something in the Bible about not trying to create discourse I think, Joseph. So I'm gonna need you to apologize to me and Jordan.
Ephesians chapter 2 verse 1 clearly states that does not apply to where's the line.
It does apply to sports. The keys, here are the keys. You've got to come out strong. That's number one. 2, you've got to run your offense. And I think that comes down to you've got to hit deep balls. Because if you're not hitting the deep balls or throws across the middle, I feel like the playbook completely changes. You go full Joe Milton playbook, and that's not good. Notice I just said the playbook was the issue. Joe Milton was terrible, though. 3, your linebackers have to be better. They just simply have to be better. They have to make the good reads. They have to tackle. Has to be better. If Tennessee, hold on, I made a note here. Where is it? Okay. I will be very shocked if Tennessee holds Vanderbilt to 20 points or less and loses. I'll be very shocked.
Yeah, me too. I agree. I completely agree. I think if Vanderbilt's held to 20 or less, UT wins. I completely agree there. Jordan, keys.
My keys, linebackers have to show up. That's key number one, especially with the option. I mean, they're going to have to read they're going to have to read the play the entire game. You're going to have to have them play on their game, and then on the outside, the DBs are just going to play man. Because, I mean, you're not going to throw it. They're not going to beat you deep. If they do, you made a mistake as a DB. I've watched several Vandy games this year. They're not speed demons. They're not going to burn by you. If they get open, it's your own fault. Secondly, have to take care of the ball. Vandy, they're going to run the ball. They're going to want to control the clock. They're going to shorten the game. They're going to take possessions away from you. And anytime you turn the ball over in plus territory, you're probably not going to see it for another 5 or 6 minutes. More than likely, unless they go 3 and out. And with how our linebackers have played, I don't see that happening. Third key, receivers, just catch the ball, please. And if before that, get open. Run some crisp routes for a change. Like if you win, you're headed to the playoff. And if you want to win another game in the playoff, you're going to have to be better on the outside.
Yeah. I think one advantage for Tennessee or for Vandy over Tennessee in this game is that Vanderbilt has everything that they can have is secured. There's no high hopes. There's no more high hopes of SEC championship or playoff or anything like that. Nothing unrealistic. You have a bowl game. You throw the kitchen sink at these guys. You hold nothing back. You throw the absolute kitchen sink. You give them everything your playbook's got left and a little bit more. You bring stuff, personnel that no one's seen this year. You make it as complicated as humanly possible. To give an overview of the game, I don't like Tennessee. I don't like Vanderbilt's odds in the game. I do. I think it's a matchup nightmare. I said that last year. For what Vanderbilt likes to do defensively, which is play shell coverage, drop 7 every time, rush 4, that just doesn't suit well with what UT likes to do offensively. And so, I think that it is a matchup nightmare. And as a Vanderbilt fan, I think you see that. It's similar to LSU. It's similar to South Carolina. And you can't be overly confident going into this game just as far from a matchup standpoint.
You guys want to give score predictions?
Yeah, let's do that. Britt, go ahead.
Let me make sure. I've got Tennessee 24, Vanderbilt 16.
I'll be shocked if we hold Tennessee to 24. I really will. I'll be shocked.
Okay. This is different for you.
Jordan?
UT 34, Vandy 17.
The defense just isn't – the offense hasn't shown me enough clock control for me to believe that the defense can hold up consistently for multiple possessions in a row. And I don't believe that the defense can. So I believe that you kind of win through the defense, you win with the defense, but through the offense's ability to control the football. And so that's why I said I would be shocked if we held them to 24. Nonetheless, this is our last preview before I give my prediction. This is our last preview on Where's the Line. This will be the last
Yeah.
preview, the last set of predictions. Enjoy it, everyone. I hope you just took in Britt and Jordan's both their predictions. I hope that you took it in and you enjoyed them, because that is the last time you get to hear them give a prediction. You'll get to hear me and Britt give one more breakdown and then maybe a little bit more. But for sure, one of the last predictions of a Vanderbilt game, because I doubt I predict the ball. I'll probably just say we're winning. So I won't predict it, but it's a matchup nightmare. It is. Everything's against you. But none of that matters. None of it matters, because I believe in this coaching staff. I believe in Diego Pavia. I believe in the freaking Doors. Give me the Doors. 31-27. I ain't come here to predict a loss. We do it this weekend. The goalposts go into the Cumberland, and I go in with them. The Doors win this weekend.
It was starting to get a little eerie. I didn't know if there was something wrong with you or something, and then you pulled the Pat McAfee on
Listen,
us.
hope does make you freaking sick, and I've been sick my whole life. I'm filled with hope, and every morning I listen to Britt Diller. I hit Jay for joy. Do you know what gives me joy? Watching the Doors win on Saturdays, and that's what we're going to do. We ruin UT's playoff chances. We make them just have the saddest weekend after Thanksgiving of their lives. The goalposts go in the Cumberland, and I'm there for it this time. You've heard the prophecy. 31-27. There is the prophecy. You've heard it here from the prophet himself, me.
Okay.
Yep, we make them go silent around here, boys. Chat, did you hear that? Chat, clip that.
Please clip it.
Predictions, chat, predictions.
Okay, do you
Picks,
guys want to do
picks and predictions. Yep,
Picks.
picks, I'm ready. Here's my 5. All
Okay,
money
let's go.
line this week, all touchdown or less spreads here. First game, give me Virginia Tech money line. Next game, give me LSU money line over Oklahoma. Virginia Tech's playing Virginia, by the way. So Virginia Tech money line over Virginia. LSU money line over Oklahoma. A&M money line over Texas. Missouri money line over Arkansas. And Vanderbilt money line over Tennessee. That's plus 4,000. Really simple. Bet 100, win 4,000. Really not that hard this weekend, boys. Rivalry weekend is going to be nuts. Okay? Upsets everywhere. I'm saying more than 2 or more top 10 teams go down this weekend. Parity is lovely.
I've got Tennessee minus 11 points. I know
Terrible
that completely goes against my prediction.
Terrible pick.
I have got over 49.5 in South Carolina Clemson. A lot of people saying that may be winner of that game may go to the playoff. Now, I don't see a 3-loss team, South Carolina, getting in, but I heard a lot of people say that. Give me Auburn plus 11.5 in the Iron Bowl, coming off a big win. Give me
That game could be a
USC
disaster.
plus, yeah, it could be. Give me USC plus 7.5 points at home against Notre Dame. And give me North Carolina with I think, is Mac Brown coaching this weekend?
Yes.
I think Mac Brown's
Last
coaching
game.
this weekend. In his last game, he covers minus 3.5 against NC State.
Yeah, they like low-key fired him, so I don't know about the vibes in that game. They like told him that he had to go, so I think that they could get killed. But I don't know.
Well, I mean, he came out Monday afternoon and was like, I will be back next year. Like, I'm not retiring. And then
Yeah.
the next day, North
They
Carolina was
told him
like,
to go.
no.
Yeah,
No,
screw
you're
you,
done.
buddy. You're too old. Yeah.
I just think team last game with their head coach, if he is coaching, they're going to be motivated to go get a win for him, for the old man, for the legend, Mac Brown.
I agree. Diego
But yeah, that's
Pavia,
it.
go be great. I need your best Spencer Rattler impression, my guy. Go be great. Go
Yeah,
be
Diego
freaking
Pavia's
great.
watching the UFC fights and in the middle of a freaking lawsuit. So I'm sure he's locked into the game.
What's Diego Pavia going to do about the lawsuit, though? I've heard a lot of people say that, but what is he doing? No
sure he's thinking about it.
plaintiff ever. And sure, they think about it, but it doesn't affect their daily life in any court case ever. No plaintiff ever unless you're the one like going to prison or something. Then obviously it's affecting your train of thought. But outside of that, plaintiffs aren't worried about it. His lawyer's got this in the bag. He's getting another year of eligibility.
I hope he does.
I think he does. I think he rides. I think he gets one more. Jordan, anything from you to end the pod here?
Yeah, Big Ten sucks. Penn State sucks. Indiana sucks.
Michigan, can we throw them in there?
Yeah, but
for Ian.
they don't have quarterback.
Sure.
So
Michigan's
I give them some
gay.
grace this year. Defense is still good.
They get a quarter. They do have a quarterback now. Bryce Underwood, Mr. Dave Portnoy, Bagman.
Freshman.
Bagman is crazy. He
that'll
will be a
fix it.
freshman. Yeah.
That's what I want to be known. Big Ten sucks.
Big Ten sucks per Cricket. I agree. They do suck this year. They're not good. SEC is by far the best conference, and it's really funny to see how like a lot of Big 12 fans in the past have complained about how their own conference has cannibalized themselves, and that's why they couldn't get any teams in the playoff. And they've complained about it because they're like, hey, our conference really doesn't suck. Our middle teams can just beat our up high teams, and that's not fair. And I've seen a lot of Big 12 fans on Twitter talking about how the SEC is kind of going to get a taste of that this year when several 3-loss teams are going to get left out. I think Missouri, Bama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina all end up getting left out if teams can take care of business this weekend. So, I mean, and then if Tennessee loses, then you really throw a wrench in it. And then if Texas loses, one more in there just to see what might happen. Because to me, if Texas loses, I just don't think there's enough there for them to be in the playoff with who they've beat. I mean, their best win is Vandy, and we're going to be at best 7-5 when the season's over. And so, I just don't think that's enough.
Yeah, give me a Tennessee win, and let's get these Indianas and Arizona States and BYUs and Notre Dame. Let's keep all those guys in the playoff and get Tennessee in there. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I seen a rematch.
Tennessee can still host.
Round.
Tennessee can still very easily host a playoff game if Notre Dame loses Saturday.
I seen a Georgia-Tennessee rematch in the first round if things were to stay the same.
I doubt that'll happen. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because they're going to win the SEC.
They're going to get a bye.
Yeah, they will win. They will get the bye.
Yeah.
Unless Texas goes the rest of the way.
Nightmare situation is if A&M wins, they beat Texas, and then they go and beat Georgia, and they get a bye.
That is true.
That's a nightmare situation for
I think it is far more likely that Texas is not even in the playoff than they have a first round bye.
I could see that. A&M winning the SEC, getting an automatic bye with 3 losses would be crazy.
It's possible.
It'd be cool.
Yeah, it is possible though. It is. I mean, it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
I think they could beat Georgia.
That's scary for Tennessee fans if that happens.
Agreed. Because then you've got Georgia
What do you do with Texas?
Yeah, and they've already said, I mean, we'll see if they live by their word, but the committee said they're not going to fault somebody for playing in the conference championship. So that means Georgia's in. No matter what, Georgia's in. And that would put A&M in. And then do they have the nuts to drop Texas from 2 to 15?
No.
So, or 2 to 13, sorry. But I don't think they do.
Yeah, and I think the rankings leading up to this week don't matter. I think in the end, they will shuffle it however they want to shuffle it to get the teams they think should be in there.
And you could be right. You could be right there.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they did with Florida State. I mean, they didn't lose and they still moved out. But we will have plenty to talk about next week. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving, even Vols fans. I just hope you have a terrible weekend. But I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. See, I'm a nice man, Britt.
That means a lot.
Thank you.
All right, goodbye.
See y'all. Anchor down.
Goodbye. Go Vols.